Hi everyone, it's Sarah from My Handmade Wardrobe Patterns, and I am with you today. I've just realised I've gone live on Crafty, so I'm just going to change that over. Bear with me. Okie, this is the problem with being a couple of people. Okay. Okay, there we go. We're back on Instagram on My Handmade Wardrobe Patterns, and hi on YouTube. Now, it looks a little bit dark on YouTube, so do let me know if it is a bit too dark and you can't see me. But hopefully you're able to see what's going on today, because I'm going to share something with you that I think a lot of pattern designers don't share. And yeah, I thought, why not? It's an interesting part of the process. It's a very honest look at part of the development process. It's an admission that I don't always get it right first time, and that there's always room to improve and to develop styles. And we generally, with our My Handmade Wardrobe Patterns, don't bring out a style until we are 100% happy with it. So that is something that perhaps stops us from bringing out quite as many patterns as some other companies, but we really, really do put a lot of emphasis on getting that fit right, making sure the instructions are 100% brilliant for you, and making sure that our testers are really, really listened to when they give feedback. So yeah, we're always open to feedback from our customers as well. So if you ever have any thoughts on any of the patterns, even after they've been put out there, we are always open to changing and adapting and improving them. If we do ever make any adaptations, any improvements to the patterns, as some of you who bought the Cozy Jersey dress might have noticed recently, we republished the instructions. So we reformatted them to make them a bit easier for you to use, and we just made some big improvements to them. So if you bought a digital copy of the pattern, you will have had a reminder, notification that pattern could be re-downloaded because we've made some improvements. And that's the great thing about PDF patterns. We're able to do that. We're able to keep making them better and better as new technologies and as our experience evolves. So yeah, hopefully that's something that makes it quite appealing to buy PDFs from us, because you'll always get the best version. And we'll usually tell you what it is that we've changed as well. So you can make the decision about whether you want to get it reprinted or whether you just want to carry on with it as it is. There are only small tweaks usually that we make, but we do want to make sure that you know what has been changed, why, and what to do with that as well. So yeah, today I'm going to be taking you through how I make some amendments to a pattern after we've done the first round of development. So just to give you a little bit of insight into how things work at My Handmade Wardrobe Patterns. So, oh, hi, Jellicoe. Hi, on Instagram. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining me. Yeah, so basically the process is usually that we will develop a pattern that we've had in our mind for a little while. Something maybe that we've got in our ready-to-wear wardrobe that we want to replicate and improve. Because to be honest, I've got lots of lovely things in my ready-to-wear wardrobe from 10 years ago, but they're just a little bit short, or they're a little bit tight in the wrong place, or something gapes, or something pulls, or something just could be done in a different way, a new technique. Maybe it's the case of lining a bodice where it's not lined to make it more comfortable. Maybe it's fabric choice. The fabric that it's been made in just isn't as sustainable or as washable or as comfortable. So there's all different reasons for remaking things that you have in your wardrobe, but it's a great place to start when you're thinking about what garment you want to make next. What have you already got? What do you love? What can you start to make yourself? And that's so empowering. It really is. You can make it in any fabric you want. You can make tweaks to the fit. You can make it tighter or looser, longer, shorter. You're not quite as enslaved to the ready-to-wear market as those who don't sew. So yeah, that's why sewing is so empowering. But you all know that anyway. So yeah, that's where I start when it comes to developing patterns. That's where this blouse started. I took a long sleeve blouse that I had and looked at the fit. It pulled a bit under the armhole, so I made sure that there was plenty of extra space there. Really, really happy with how that's worked out, because there is definitely plenty of room. And all our patterns are drafted for a C cup. But realistically, we're quite roomy with especially a pattern like this. It's got plenty of extra room. So if you're like a D cup and above, say you're a double D and above, you're probably going to have to do a full bust adjustment. If you're an A cup and you don't want a very loose fit, then you're probably going to have to do a small bust adjustment. But generally, having polled our customer base, the dressmaking cup size generally tends to be about 2 inches to 3 inches bigger than your high bust measurement. So to get your cup size, basically you're measuring your high bust measurement and then your full bust measurement, and then you're calculating the difference. And a C cup will be 3 inches difference, a B cup will be 2 inches difference. So, and it goes through like that. So yeah, we find that most of our customers are between 2 to 3 inches difference between their high bust, which is right under your armpits, right up here, very, very high, where you've got no bust, no extra tissue at all, really, to your full bust. And the difference there is how you calculate your cup size. If you're interested in learning a bit more about that, let me know, and I am quite happy to do a bit more telling you about that. Something that a lot of people don't know how to calculate properly, and there are different ways of doing it as well. That's the only problem with a lot of these techniques, is there's always going to be people who will do things slightly differently, and that is the beauty of sewing, is that you can do it your own way. But the way that we use, the formula that we use is high bust, full bust, what's the difference? And then each inch is a different cup size. So yeah, gone off on a tangent, sorry about that, but every day's a school day. And yeah, so I came to develop this this shirt. The ready-to-wear version was quite tight. I like the look of the tight collar, so it's quite tight on the collar. I can actually do this up, and that's something that I really wanted, because I like that kind of buttoned up look. So yeah, I wanted a little tiny neat collar. Just come a little bit closer so you can see it a little bit better. A little tiny neat collar that you could actually do up. I love the idea of wearing it with a little tie or a little bow, just to make it a bit more contemporary and a bit more modern, more interesting. But it also equally looks just as nice with a couple of buttons undone or one button. It's quite a casual kind of feel to it. So that's what I love about this style. Oh, and I also should say I love the amount of volume at the back. So I really like that, you know, when I walk, when I turn, I've got, you know, a little bit of movement there, and I think that would look really, really gorgeous, lengthened into a tunic, which is part of the idea for the development. But what I don't like about it is that, well, what I didn't like was that when I made this sample, it was too tight under the arm. I've actually let it out on this sample. So the first pattern amendment that I made from the first paper pattern that I made, when I digitized things, I actually made the armhole a lot bigger. I extended it by about 4 centimeters either side, so added 8 centimeters to the circumference, which is quite a lot, but it really was properly skin tight. and there was no chance of kind of lifting arms and things like that. It was kind of pinching. So that's now got lots of space. So yeah, really happy with that. I really like the look of it being a bit more wide. And the leaf print blouse that you see me wearing on Instagram on our grids actually has that adjustment made to it. So if you want to see what that looks like with the extra fabric rather than just opened up, you can see that on our grid. So that was the first amendment that I made. Second amendment that I'm going to make with you today, I'm going to show you how to make that amendment to the pattern. I'm making now after having done the first development. So when I first did the first development, I basically took lots of measurements from a couple of different ready-to-wear garments that I already own, and I also looked at my block and just really went with that. And then the first sample and the second sample and the third sample, I was fairly happy with. You know, they fit, they're comfortable. Yeah, happy. But I thought, actually, as I've worn them more and more, there's little things that I could tweak just to make them that little bit more comfortable. So the first thing that I wanted to tweak was on the shoulder seam, just here. Show you that here. It is sitting a little bit far back on my neck. I'm really happy with where it's sitting on my shoulder point. That is my shoulder point. That's my exact shoulder point, and that's where the seam is. Totally happy with that. But as we follow the seam, you can see it's starting to come forwards. And that's giving the impression of me having a slight kind of hunchback. Makes me look a little bit like, you know, everything's kind of falling forwards and there's just not enough kind of pulling it backwards. And what I want the look to be is more like this, but I don't want to be strangled. So to move the shoulder seam to a little bit further back, we need to do a little bit of changing to the back yoke. So it is a garment with a back yoke. It's got this fluid back section, but the back yoke is actually quite a close fitting part of the pattern. And I need to make an adjustment to the front piece as well. So I'm going to do that in just a minute. I'm going to move the camera so you can see what's going on. And yes, that would be my first amendment. My second adjustment that I want to make is, you can see here, the front lifts up slightly. So if we take a good look at the side, from the side view, the back, just roll my shoulders back there. So even if I'm nice and relaxed, we've got quite a bit more length at the back than we have at the front. Now, I have studied this in front of the mirror, got somebody else to help me, and I've measured, I need to add another 2 centimetres. Now, what I could do is just add on to the bottom, straighten that off and add the 2 centimetres. That is one way of doing things. However, I think what would really make everything sit really nicely is if I actually add the measurement into here, just below the armpit. And it's just going to help affect the balance of the front of the garment, because basically from here down to here needs to measure, there needs fabric being added. The fabric needs to be added to this section. What will happen when I do this, and I'll explain why as we go through the amendment, is that I will actually lose a tiny bit of this volume here. But what that's going to do is it's going to stop this from flicking out like it does at the moment. I've got a little bit of a flick. So the theory is that we're going to slash across here. Sorry, a bit graphic. I'm going to slash the pattern across here, just to confirm, not slashing any of my body or part or anything. We're going to slash the pattern across, and then we're going to add in some extra pattern paper into this area. So what that will do is it will lower the front of the garment whilst adding in here, but not adding anything into the side seams. And it's going to create a curve at the front. Now, we don't really want a curve at the front, not on a button placket. So what we're going to do at that point is we're just going to straighten that off, and it will make things become a little bit tighter at this point. but that I don't think is going to affect, don't think it's going to negatively affect anything. In fact, I think it's going to make the line from here down to my bust point sit a bit flatter, because at the moment, you can't really see it on the screen, but there is a tiny little bit of extra fabric just here. And that is going to be lost when we straighten out the front seam. That's the theory, anyway. So, where are we going to start? Well, first of all, I'm going to move the camera slightly so that you can see. Sorry, guys, on YouTube, you are a little bit static. So I'm going to be having to do things from a little bit further away, but you'll be able to see, and I'll hold things up to show you what is going on. So, first things first, like we said, we're going to change the shoulder. So, the tools that you're going to need. So, I have drawn around the size that I'm cutting out. I started with a fresh pattern, just to make things really, really clear for you, so I'm not sticking on too much extra paper. I've drawn around the size that I'm going to be cutting out. I'm then going to use a different coloured pen to make my adjustments, to make it really, really clear for you. Now, this is something that I would recommend you do at home. So if you are cutting out a particular size and struggling to find all the lines, the correct line to cut out, use a different coloured pen, draw around it, and then you'll know exactly where you need to cut out. Some patterns, when they're nested, when they're multi-size patterns, they do have a lot of different lines on them. And yeah, that can be a little bit confusing, really. Yeah, especially if you are a new sewist, new to using dressmaking patterns. It's a really good idea. Draw around your size that you're cutting out. So the next thing that I've done is I've actually drawn on my amendments. So nice and clear at the shoulder here. What I want to happen, I don't want to add anything to the shoulder point, because as we discussed before, that is fine. I'm really happy with that. What I do want to add is 1 centimetre to the front to take that shoulder seam back ever so slightly. Not too much. I did quibble with whether it should be only 1/2 centimetre, but I think to make the difference, it needs to be 1 centimetre. And that's the beauty of being a designer. You get to make those kind of decisions, but sometimes it is a bit, there are lots of decisions to be made, let's put it that way. So, yes, hopefully this is the right decision. We will see when I make it up. So I'm going to add 1 centimetre on to this line here. So I'm just going to take my pattern master, and I'm basically going to add my centimetre just here, and then I'm going to bring that down to nothing at the shoulder point. I'll just hold that up to show you what I've done. So I've added on 1 centimetre, brought it down to nothing at the shoulder point, which is just about here. Now this shirt sits slightly off the shoulder, so it's about 7 centimetres down from the shoulder point. So where that point is, just here, is where we've brought it into. So that's where we're going. Now, if I was to just do that at the front, what would happen is that we would need to expand the collar. Now this is decision time. So I'm just going to do up my collar, and I've got 2 decisions to make. Now I like how tight this collar is, but I realise I've got quite a slim neck. Are people who are making this, you, the customers, going to be comfortable with a neckline that is that tight? I actually think for the look of the garment, I really want to keep that tightness, that neatness, that clean kind of fit. And so I'm not going to add into the collar. That's a design decision that I'm making, and it might be something that I come to regret when I make this in a slightly stiffer fabric perhaps, but right now that's the decision that I'm going with, to keep everything nice and neat and clean and cute, basically. So what I'm going to do to stop me from having too much neckline to go into my collar is I am going to reduce the back neckline by 1 centimetre by bringing this shoulder seam down. And again, I'm going to come to nothing at about this point here. So I'll just go ahead and do that. Do let me know if you're enjoying this, because I'm having an absolute ball. And it's the kind of thing that I'd really like to share with you guys, because I think an insight into the pattern making process is something that seems like a bit of a dark art, but actually making your own patterns is not that complicated when you've got the right guidance. You'll start to learn how to do pattern amendments on, pattern making on our pattern making course, which is run by Catherine Bean. Our next course is trouser fitting and pattern making, which I think is just going to be amazing. And that's on the 2nd of April. So that is something that if you have been thinking, I really want to learn how to make trousers, but I'm really not sure what adjustments I need to make, what pattern to choose, where to start really, that's an absolute ideal one to start with. We'll go through some of the principles of pattern making. We go through it all in a lot more detail in the bodice block pattern drafting class, but the trouser drafting class is more focused on fit. So yeah, that's something that I think you will definitely get a lot from if you have a real interest in making trousers, basically. And we all wear them every day, so it's something that definitely is worth investing a bit of time in looking into. Thank you. It's so nice of you to say, Louise. Hello. Thank you. I'm really glad that you're enjoying it. So what I have done now, the back yoke, is I have done the wrong thing. So this is the problem with talking and doing the amendments at the same time. I need to remove a centimetre, not add a centimetre. Okay. So I'm quite clear when I've done something that I don't want, I will scribble it out. So the bottom line there is our new amendment, and that is going to be our new shoulder line. And I should say, yeah, I'm working on one size, and then what I would do as the pattern designer is go back into the computer program that I use, and I would input that information and change all the different size grades equally. So the pattern amendment would be applied to all the different sizing. But for now, just working on the base size, which for us is a size 4, which is about a size 12 to 14 in UK money. So yes, that's all done. One thing that I will need to change again when I make my amendments to that. When I make my amendments on the computer is I'll need to move my notches. So I mustn't forget to do that. That's something that whenever you make any amendments to patterns, you mustn't forget to do. Move your notches, make sure that they balance. So what I'm actually going to do now is just take my back yoke and my front yoke, and I'm just going to match up the new shoulder line and just check that everything does actually match. So yeah, that's fine. Good there. This would be easier when I've cut it out. I'm not going to spend too much time online today cutting it out. Yeah, so I'm happy that that all matches. My notches are all in line, so that's all looking good. Okay, so that is the first amendment. That's going to fix my forward shoulder seam. Second amendment I'm going to make is adding in to the front here. So I'm going to add 2 centimetres into the front, and that's just going to lower this neckline, this hemline just here. Another thing that I could do if I wanted to, if I felt that there was any pulling going on, is I could actually raise the neckline slightly. I think what I'm going to, I mean, you can hear when I talk there, it's kind of starting to get a little bit high, a little bit too high, and a bit uncomfortable. So I don't want to change anything to do with that neckline. That's how I've come to that decision. So where I really, really do want to add, after all the analysis of how this fits, and just to say also, I have also tried this on somebody else that is a similar body measurement, set of body measurements. I have a body measurement twin, which I try everything on as a fit model, because sometimes you just can't fit yourself. Yeah, that is, we're having the same issues on that same person. So we're going to add in to this middle section, and to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut along the line that I have made. Now, one thing that I need to consider when I'm doing this is the fact that I am moving my buttonholes. So I'm also going to need to move those, but we'll get onto that in just a little bit. So what I'm doing is cutting up to that line, and I'm really hoping it doesn't fall apart when I hold this up. I've got myself a little pivoting joint there. So I've cut all the way down the front, and then I've cut up to the line again on the other side. Now, if you do cut through, don't worry, get a bit of sellotape, stick it on, it'll hold it together for as long as you need it to be held together. But what that now means, and I'll just move this to here and hopefully you'll be able to see, because it's going to be difficult for me to hold up. But what you should be able to do is just add in 2 centimetres just here. So what I would do is grab, sorry guys, I thought that was a bit of spare pattern paper, but it's my next pattern development for Love Sewing magazine, so I better not use that and cut it up. I've got a bit of spare paper here, and what I would do is just slide that in, and then I'll open up the front of the garment, letting the other end of that pivot joint just overlap there. Then I'm going to get my tape measure, and I've decided that I want to add in 2 centimetres. So I just need to pivot my pattern so that I've got 2 centimetres adding in at the centre front. Now, what I need to bear in mind is that that 2 centimetres needs to be where the stitch line is, where the folded edge basically of the pattern is. So that isn't necessarily right on the edge here. It's actually a little bit further in. So let's have a look just here. And what I'm going to do is grab a tape. And stick that down so that you guys can see what that means. So, good. Get a couple of bits of sellotape. I'm not a massive fan of sellotape, obviously, because it's plastic, but sometimes you really do need a clear tape. So if anybody comes across anything biodegradable that's still clear, let me know. Always keen to find out about things like that. Okay, so at this point here, it says, holding it up, I've just added in 2 centimetres, and this is what I was saying about the folded edge. So the folded edge of our pattern is not this edge here. This is the edge that folds into the inside of our garment. So that's not where I want to be adding the 2 centimetres. I'd add too little if I added just 2 centimetres into here, because the measurement from here to here is actually about 2.5 centimetres. I'm just adding in to this bit here. So what we can see immediately, if I hold that up to me, there we go, it's just started to straighten things off. So we're not going to end up with the front of the garment pulling up too much. So, problem is now, as you have probably noticed, we've got a little bit of a banana front going on. So I do need to straighten that off. I'm not going to do anything at all fancy with it. I am literally just going to straighten it. And like I said, it will mean that I lose about 0.5 centimetre off my front. But I've decided that I can afford that in the fitting. If I decided that I couldn't afford it in the fitting, I just need to add that extra 0.5 centimetre to everything. And that would mean that I would need to add it onto the collar as well and expand, take a bit more, give a bit more room in the collar. And we decided that we don't want to do that because we're keeping things neat and small and contemporary. So, check that all my lines are definitely straight because that is very important. Okay, so another thing to bear in mind is that we don't want any kind of anything other than a right angle at the front. If we end up with a point at the bottom hem here, down here, you're going to end up with pointy fronted hems. So you end up with your hems kind of sticking down like so, and we don't really want that. We want them to be nice and neat and precise. So yeah, that I've checked is a right angle, happy with that. Equally at the sides, you probably see that the hem comes up slightly like this. That's due to the flare from the waist to the hip, and that also needs to be a right angle to make everything look nice and neat. That's one of the first principles that I learned when I was doing pattern cutting, was try to get, if anything's matching with anything else, unless it's part of the design, try and make sure that you're always joining right angles. So that's something that I remember, like day, maybe not 1, but maybe day 2 of my fashion design degree was, yeah, something to, that was one of the main principles that I really needed. Oh, Kim says that the company Sellotape are now making clear biodegradable sticky tape. Hooray! Yes, that's something that I definitely need to make a purchase of, because every time I use a bit of sellotape, I feel a bit sad. I'm like, oh, I'm just applying plastic to paper and making it all non-recyclable, really, in reality. So yes, that makes me very happy. Small things, eh? So yeah, we've now got our amended pattern. The only thing that we do now need to do is adjust those buttonholes, because of course what you don't want is a 4 centimetre or 5 centimetre or whatever, say 5 centimetre gap here, and the 7 centimetre gap, and then a 4 centimetre and a 4 centimetre. It's just going to look all wrong. And when it's right in the centre of a garment, it's going to look really wrong. So, decision time. We can either spread the buttonholes out a little bit more, or we can bring the positioning of the first buttonhole up slightly. Now, I quite like where this fits. It means that if I tuck it into a top, my button is, into a pair of trousers, my button is just sitting at exactly the right place for me. So I'm really happy with the positioning of that bottom buttonhole, and I think it allows for a lot of versatility with the pattern, which is something that we always look for when designing our patterns. We want them to be really, really versatile, to be able to be styled in lots of different ways. So I can go for kind of quite a cool little half tuck. I think they call that a French tuck, don't they? Where you tuck the front in and you don't tuck the back in. So yeah, I can do that with this. And yeah, so I want to keep my buttonhole at the bottom in the same position as it was before. My top buttonhole, which is this one, so that's my collar buttonhole. This is my top buttonhole. Again, I'm happy with where that is. I've not got too much extra space. If I had more space than that, what I might get is a little bit chilly, or I might get a bit of gaping going on with this little bit just here. At the moment, I've got, you know, sitting fairly flat. If I open up my top button like so, like that, it's sitting in a nice place. I like where that is. I don't want it any lower. I want it to stay there. So what I do need to do is redistribute my buttonholes. So to do that, I'll find the center of my buttonholes, and then from there, I'm going to measure and find the center of those points. So the center of those points is just here. Draw the line on there. I am also, for visualization's sake, going to draw a line all the way down there. Make sure, and at all points, I really want to make sure that I am lining up with my straight grain line. Of course, I have actually moved my straight grain line. I've cut right through it, so I need to draw that in again. So now I need to make sure that the line that I am creating along the centre front for the button placket placement is parallel to the straight grain line. So just to show you what that actually looks like, I've drawn my button placket, my buttonhole placement line down here, joining the bottom one and the top one, and finding the middle. And then I've also straightened out my grain line. So these are essential things that you need to do to keep your pattern balanced whilst you are making these amendments. And this applies to making your own patterns and amending patterns. Often, I think there's not enough knowledge shared. There's not enough information out there about the accurate way to make amendments to patterns and the processes to go through. Because it is, you can just hash it together, but then when you come back to use that pattern another time, this applies especially to jeans, you really want those pattern amendments to be as clear as possible. You want to just look straight at your pattern and know what it is that you made, the adjustments that you made, and also possibly why you made them as well. Take photos when you're making your first garment, especially if you're making a toile or a sample mock-up, like in a different fabric, just to see how things fit and go together. Take photos all the way through, document your journey, your fit journey, and you will learn so much about your body, how clothes fit, and it will make things a lot easier next time. An example is, I know that, I'll use my business partner Freya actually. She knows she's got a kind of hollow chest. Her chest is slightly more concave just up here than the normal block. So she has to make an amendment to pretty much the top, where she takes out a centimetre right down the front to nothing at about the waist-ish, depending on where the hemlines are and things like that. So that's something that she always does as standard. She'll measure the pattern just to check. She knows her measurements because she's got those written down. And she then knows, she can make an assessment straight away. Do I need to change the pattern? And then she makes a garment that fits first time without the need to do lots and lots of toiling. Sometimes you need to toile, but sometimes you really don't, once you've learned to fit your body and what requirements your body needs in comparison to the block. So I have now straightened off my grain line. I have drawn my button line, and I now know that I need to put my 2 centimetre buttonholes, either side of that. So I've got my one there. Right. So of course this takes a little bit of maths. 20, and I need that into 2. So what I would do now, I'm not going to try and do maths in front of you because that's just not going to go well. But what I would do is that I would take this measurement from here to here, knowing where the centre is, knowing that I want to have probably a buttonhole in the centre, although maybe I don't, and split that between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttonholes. So I've got my first one positioned. I'd split the measurement between 5, and that gives me indication of where to put all the other buttonholes and measure those out carefully and decide exactly where I want those to go. You can wait until you've made up the garment. You can draw your buttonholes on. You don't need to reference the pattern. But what happens next time you come to make that garment? you're not going to know where to put your buttonholes, and you're going to have to start again and do those measurements, calculations, etc. So if you do that on your garment, transfer those markings over to your pattern. That's something that is a fundamental principle of fitting a garment. Transfer onto your pattern. Now, we can help you with that when it comes to coming to one of our jeans workshops, which we have our next one in May. Still got 3 places for that if you're interested in coming. We will take you through all the fit adjustments that we're making. We'll talk you through why. We'll discuss with you whether you think you should make those adjustments or not. You might like the fit a little bit looser. You might like it absolutely skin tight. We had every different iteration. At the last workshop, we had some people who really liked the skin tight effect, and we were able to achieve that. We had some people who preferred the slightly looser, baggier effect. They were perfectly happy with the finished effect of the jeans as well. So we will take you through why we're doing what we're doing, and then we will allow time to make sure that we help you transfer those adjustments onto the pattern. Something, unfortunately, in the last workshop we didn't make time for, and it's something that we really want to make sure that we do allow time for, because I just think it's so important. Once you've learnt to make your own jeans, there's no reason really to buy jeans. I mean, sometimes you just don't have the time, but once you've got a pattern that fits you, making a pair of jeans is really not as time consuming as it might first seem. The pattern amendments, the cutting out the pattern, etc., that's quite costly, and learning the techniques for the first time. But once those techniques and you've got your pattern that fits you, then there'll be no stopping you. So yeah, that is something that we will be covering in the jeans weekender. It is a weekend, so if you are from outside of Leicester, we do have, I've just amended the Find Us page with some accommodation information. So why not make a weekend of it and come and see us? We'd love to see you for the workshop. Yeah, 3 places left on that at the moment. The other place to really learn about fitting is, of course, with our bodice block fitting and pattern design course. And the next date for that, we haven't got a solid date in yet, but I think we're looking at May. I think it was the 21st. I'm not sure whether we've actually published that yet. You might be getting insider information. But yeah, it's around the 21st of May. And yeah, I think I personally, I mean, I've been making patterns for 20, I want to say, that makes me feel really old, but probably 14 to 16 years properly. And I learned something, I learned a lot from watching Kath, our expert pattern designer, fit the garments. And next week, in fact, actually, yes, next week, we've got Kath coming in for an intensive staff pattern design session. So she's going to teach us all, refresh for me, but teach all the basic principles of pattern development and design, which is going to be really interesting. I'm very excited about refreshing my skills and seeing other staff members learning some really valuable new skills. So yeah, if you do want to join us for that, that is a full day session. You get a bespoke block made to your measurements and then fitted so that it's absolutely spot on for you. And then the possibilities are endless. You can be doing things like this. You can be making your fitted bodice and then applying whatever skirt that you want to make the dress of your dreams. It's a great place to start if you're thinking about making something like a wedding dress or bridesmaids dresses. In the last session, we had somebody who is setting up a bridal company, and she's been to uni probably similar time as me. We're talking kind of 20 years ago now-ish. Maybe she's a little bit younger than me. But yeah, she just really wanted to refresh her skills, and I think she just came away bubbling with enthusiasm and inspiration to really kickstart that side of her business and get developing some designs. So yeah, and then we had somebody who wanted to learn how to make to make patterns, to make adjustments to commercial patterns to start off with. So it's for every level. If you've got any interest in pattern making, then you will absolutely love that course. And yeah, it's fantastic. I basically learned everything. Well, I feel like Kath taught everything that I learned in the first maybe 5 weeks of my degree course in a day. And that's just amazing. And she doesn't waffle. She doesn't tell you things you don't need to know. It's all such valuable information. So, so yeah, there's a couple of ways that if you want to enjoy learning more about fitting, you can. If you want me to do more of these kind of things, like pattern development chats, I am more than happy to do them. I love doing them. I love sharing the process with you. I'm really hoping that I will be able to share more sew-alongs with you as well. More regularly, especially pre-recorded ones, because I think I can give you a lot more focused tips and insights into making our patterns. But next week we have got a really exciting chat with you next Thursday, followed by the following week we've got a sew along for our new pattern. So our new pattern's coming out on Thursday. It's one that if you like comfort, if you like being indoors and being super cozy and having a wardrobe full of trousers that you can just pull on and feel like, yes, these make me feel good in so many ways, then this is a perfect pattern for you. The pattern that we're bringing out is the Homebody Joggers. They are based on extensive lockdown research of comfortable trousers that also look stylish enough to actually be able to go out on your lockdown walks, but also now maybe even wear outside to meet people and everything, now that we can all do that. Hooray! Yeah, they are the Homebody Joggers, but they are definitely not just to be restricted to indoor use. I'm actually going to make a couple of pairs for when me and Matt go walking in Scotland in Easter. And I think they're going to be absolutely perfect for walking and then for chilling out in the evening as well. I might make myself a pair of luxury ones in kind of a Nikkei velour fur fabric, which is a very lightweight velour that's not too shiny. I think they're going to be super comfortable, with some pre-made cups attached to them as well, which is another video that I'll be doing for you. So lots and lots of ways to make the new pattern, and we'll be bringing lots of inspiration through our sew-alongs and our recorded videos as well. So do keep watching on YouTube. We will be sharing regular tutorial videos for crafty projects and for my handmade wardrobe tips and tutorials and hacks. And on Instagram, we always share what we produce for our other platforms on Instagram as well. So yeah, just keep checking in, and I hope that today has been useful. Do drop me a message, especially if you're watching this back later. And thanks so much for joining me today. I will carry on with my amendment, finish this pattern and get it out. Lovely to speak to you all. Speak to you all again soon next Thursday. Bye.